Hey everyone, welcome in to Next Round Preps. John Luntz for Jerry Young, and I have a smile on my face because it is playoff time. We are into round 2 of the AHSAA playoffs. We're down to 16 teams in 1A through 6A, down to 8 teams in Class 7A. Boy, when you start the season, it's like there's so much football to go, and now that you're here, it's like, oh man, we're here. Where did the season go? It feels like it was just yesterday.
You know, John, if you watch this show, you're obviously a high school sports fan, right? So if you're not excited this time of year and next week, you need to check that pulse, because I'm going to tell you, this is to me when it gets the best. These even down in, and not even down in, but especially down in 1A, 2A, 3A, where games that you and I might look at and say, well, that's, you know, this small town playing this small town, but now all of a sudden these games mean something. They're exciting. The whole town comes out. It's Alabama high school football at its best. It
is. And look, we're going to start in Class 1A. We'll go through all 7 classifications here and talk about every game that happened last week and every game that's coming up this week in round 2. We'll do 1A through 4A here. We'll jump into the upper classifications here in the next segment. But let's jump right in. Class 1A, we'll start in the top left quadrant. Leroy getting a big win over Calhoun, 40-7. They will be at home next week against Georgiana. Georgiana beat Keith 60-0 last week. So that's, for the most part, your 1s and 2s are going to move on to the next round. I think every classification did have some pretty big upsets happen in them, especially in the upper classifications. There's one we'll get to coming up here in the next segment. But
Leroy is one of the 4 teams in 1A that I had circled at the beginning of the year. You got Leroy, you've got Elba, you've got Lochapoka. They're still undefeated, by the way. You got Lynn. Those 4 teams in 1A, they're going to all interact here real soon, but I really, looking at this game, I really expect Leroy, the Bears, I couldn't remember what they were, the Bears, to come in and play big.
They will host that game Friday night at Leroy. In Lochapoka, you mentioned them. They had to play that game actually at Beulah High School due to a conflict on Thursday. Of course, a lot of people played on Thursday last week because of Veterans Day, or what was the in the week Veterans Day on Friday, even though Veterans Day was actually on Saturday. Lochapoka, they beat Southern Choctaw 34-6. Brantley, they beat Linden. A little bit of an upset there, 3-2. Brantley, a team that always makes a run. That's the thing with the playoffs as well. You get these teams that they're just used to being in the playoffs. And I think we've seen it in some upper classification teams that struggle in the regular season but play well in the playoffs. Here, Brantley, a team that is can do some damage in the playoff over in the northern half, Pickens County. One of those teams as well. We'll get to them in a second. But Brantley, they beat Linden 42-17, big win there for a 3 seed. So they will host Lochapoka. Now, if you're curious, I had 1 million people fight me on this on Friday night.
Yeah.
I don't try to go into this getting into fights, but with the UMS Wright upset happening, everybody, which we'll get to that in a second, but everybody was like, oh, they clearly are going to host a game, right? A 4 seed wins, they should be able to host. They have earned that right to host. Unless a 3 seed wins, the only team that is guaranteed to host in the next round, no matter what happens, is actually a 3 seed. That's kind of bizarre. You'd think it'd be a 1 seed. But the way the AHSAA goes, it's strictly based on travel. And then if travel's equal, then you start getting into some different scenarios. But a 1 seed wins, they have to go to a 3 seed because the 3 seed travel. A 2 seed wins, they might have to go to a 4 seed if a 4 seed beats the 1 because the 4 seed travel. And then a 4 seed wins, they would have to travel to a 3 seed. And Brantley is a 3 seed that did move on. So it's a little complicated, but basically it's weird. The only team that is guaranteed to host in at least 1A through 6A, because 7A is different, is a 3 seed. So Brantley, they will host Lochapoka next week. Sweetwater, another team you could easily see make a little bit of a run there. They win 48-22 over Florala. Maplesville, they beat Choctaw County 41-14. Maplesville is one of those teams as well. They're a 2 seed, but you expect Maplesville to make a little bit of a run.
That's right. And listen, you know anything about Alabama high school football, when you say Maplesville, Sweetwater, you know you got 2 great 1A teams headed for a collision course. Last week, Maplesville beat Choctaw County 41-14. That's a big win. Choctaw County is not a bad football team, even though I think they were a 4 seed in that. No, they were a 3 seed.
Yeah, 3 seed
they
from
were
Region
a 3
1.
seed. So congratulations to them. That's going to be a battle. They'll play that at Sweetwater.
Because that's a 1 and a 2. The 1 will host that, so Maplesville will have to go on the road to Sweetwater on Friday night. I believe every game this week is on Friday night. They did not have to move any, as far as I know. Elba, always a team you can talk about. You mentioned them as one of the 4. They win 70-8 over University Charter. University Charter, one of those that kind of snuck in there from Livingston. Elba, they get the big win, 70-8. Millry, they beat Notasulga 55-0. They're the 3 seed out of Region 4. Millry, the 2 seed out of Region 1. Elba will host that one as Millry goes to Elba. So your second round matchups in the South, Leroy hosts Georgiana, Brantley hosts Lochapoka, Sweetwater, they host Maplesville, and Elba, they host Millry. All right, jumping into the North, Lynn, another team you mentioned, they get a big win, 53-7 over Shoals Christian. They will have to go on the road, and this is an interesting case of a 3 seed right here. Coosa Christian, they're a 3 seed. They had to travel to Spring Garden 28-0, but remember, this is the team we talked about last week that they had just dominated everybody, but had forfeit a bunch of games, came back, put up 94 points, I think, in their first game back after the forfeits happened, and just ran over everybody to be a 3 seed. Arguably the best team in Class 1A, but they're a 3 seed. That doesn't make a lot of sense until you see the forfeits. They won 28-0, so they will now host Lynn because they're in that 3 spot where I said it's a guaranteed home game, and Lynn will have to travel to Coosa Christian. You talk about Lynn, but this is not the 3 seed they wanted to meet in the second round.
No, absolutely not. Come in with a 10-1 record, and you're an underdog.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how your system would work it out, but I'm going to say that Coosa Christian's favored in that ball game.
Let's just go down to Class 1A. I have Coosa Christian as a 14.5-point favorite.
There you go.
3 seed over the 1 seed, a 1 seed that has had an incredible season. However, Coosa Christian clearly a 1 seed. They just had to forfeit a bunch of games early on. The winner of that game will face the winner of Hackleburg, who beat Marion County 47-8, and Valleyhead, who beat Raglan 30-14. Hackleburg will host that game as that is a 1 taking on a 2. Winterboro, they beat Decatur Heritage, who was the region champ out of that region with Coosa Christian. They fall 42-37, close game there. Winterboro, they will move on, but like I said, even though they're a 4 seed and they got the win, they have to travel to Pickens County. The Tornadoes always a team that is around. I've seen their logo up on the big screen at Bryant Denny and Jordan-Hare over the years plenty of times. Pickens County, they beat Addison 32-20, a 3 over a 2. So Pickens County will host that one in reform against Winterboro. So Winterboro is a 4 seed. You get the win, you still got to go on the road to take on Pickens County. And then Wadley, they beat Cedar Bluff 62-10, and then South Lamar beat Meek 33-14. South Lamar will have to travel to Wadley. So your northern half, Lynn at Coosa Christian, Valleyhead at Hackleburg, Winterboro at Pickens County, South Lamar at Wadley. So 1A down to 16 teams should be a very interesting classification to watch as we move on. All right, in the Class 2A playoffs, Clark County 20-9 winners over Vincent. GW Long, they fall to Goshen. A little bit of a surprise here, 61-40 in a super high scoring matchup. So Goshen's going to host Clark County. Clark County, the 1 seed out of Region 1, they'll have to go to Goshen because, like I mentioned, those 3 seeds, they get the home games. However, the winner of that game gets to face the winner of B.B. Comer, who won 49-0 over Washington County, and Highland Home, the Flying Squadron, who won 45-6 over Ayrton. And I imagine the winner of B.B. Comer Highland Home is going to have a good chance to move on to the semifinals.
Let me tell you what, the squadron is flying high this year. 10-1 this year, overall record. Wow. B.B. Comer, though, 11-0. I still like Highland Home in that game.
I'm leaning Highland Home in this one. They have to go to B.B. Comer since it's a 1v2, and B.B. Comer is the 1. So they will go to Legion Stadium, not Legion Field.
That's right.
There in Sylacauga. But look, I lean Highland Home in this. Reeltown, the one team that beat them, we'll get to them in a second. They won their first matchup, but I've kind of said Highland Home, Reeltown in a rematch, but B.B. Comer, if they are there, would not really shock anybody. Reeltown, they beat Wicksburg 34-14. They will host Thorsby, who beat Chickasaw 50-16. Cottonwood, they beat Luverne 26-8. Luverne loses, but still continues the longest playoff streak in Alabama, and it is not even close when it comes to the streak that Luverne is on. They sneak in there. They were a 4 seed. It was a tough sneak in there, but they keep it going. It's in the high 30s, I think, now in consecutive years. I mean, even think about Hoover. They haven't been there. Think of teams like Fife. They haven't been there. UMS Wright. They're not there. Nobody's even close to the streak that Luverne has, but they fall to Cottonwood 26-8. And St. Luke's, a 2 seed. They fall to a 3 seed in Isabella. Isabella good every year as well. They win 44-17. So Isabella will host Cottonwood in that 3 seed spot. So you're south, Clark County at Goshen. BB Comer hosts Highland Home. Reeltown hosts Thorsby. And then Cottonwood will travel to Isabella in the south. In the north, Tuscaloosa Academy, fairly new team to the AHSAA. They win 35-16 over Red Bay. They will host Southeastern, who won 28-21 in a close game over Collinsville.
I think this is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. I know that Tuscaloosa Academy is a good ball team, and everybody thinks that they're going to go into, bring Southeastern, and Southeastern to be at Tuscaloosa Academy. I think that a lot of people think Tuscaloosa Academy is going to win that game's hand down. I honestly believe that the Mustangs of Southeastern is going to make this a close ball game and could possibly even win it.
Tuscaloosa Academy, the old system, spin them out as a 3-touchdown favorite. But, yeah, I think that may be a little much there for Tuscaloosa Academy for the Knights. Tanner, they get a big win over Lamar County in another shootout, 64-55. They will host Pisgah, who beat Pleasant Valley 44-20. Pisgah, a team that's always there when it comes to playoff time as well. They got to go to Tanner, though, team who was the region champ there in Region 8.
You can flip a coin on that one. I don't care what the line says. I don't care what it is. Both of these teams know how to win. Pisgah's got the better record at 10-1. You do not ever bet against Tanner. You do not ever bet against Pisgah. This is a fight to the end on this ballgame.
The old system spit out just a slight favorite for Pisgah, so definitely a close game, a lot closer than I was kind of surprised. That's the thing when you play all these teams and you're playing against regions you don't normally play, that it kind of gets the system out of whack a little bit because you don't have a lot of common opponents to gauge things on like you do in region play. But it does have Pisgah overall as a slight favorite there against Tanner. Fife, team you can always count on here in 2A, 48-0 winners over West End. Lexington, they beat Aliceville 54-28. Fife will host that one. They're at Paul Benefield Stadium. The only coach I know of that has his name on the stadium and is still coaching there. I'm sure there's somebody else out there somewhere, but that shows you how good you are when you're at Fife.
Yeah, a little interesting fact. Paul Benefield has the winningest record in the state. You want to know who's second?
Mark Freeman.
That's correct.
I figured you wouldn't ask that question if it wasn't Mark Freeman.
Mark Freeman's the second winningest, not record now, but percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage, not
wins
total
versus
wins.
losses.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, UMS Wright, Danny Horn obviously doing really good there,
Right.
but that's total wins that they have the record for,
That's
but
right.
overall percentage, yeah. Fife every year, I mean, they're 14-1, 15-0, playing the state championship, seems like. They will host Lexington this Friday. And the winner of that will face the winner of Locust Fork, who beat North Sand Mountain 54-7, and Sulligent, who beat Hatton 43-12. So Locust Fork will host that one at home. So your northern half, Tuscaloosa Academy will host Southeastern. Tanner will host Pisgah. Fife will host Lexington, and Locust Fork will host Sulligent. No upsets there on that side. All the top seeds winning there in Class 2A in the north. All right, moving on to Class 3A. One of the best teams in the state, pound for pound, regardless of classification, in my mind, is Mobile Christian. They beat Beulah 52-7, flexing their muscles there. Houston Academy, they win 49-18 over Alabama Christian, and Mobile Christian will host that one down at Harrison Field in Mobile.
You know, John, this is a perfect example of what playoff football really is. Here you got Mobile Christian 11-0. You got Houston Academy 10-1. This is how every game, in my opinion, should be. Two great football teams going into each other, great records. They both know how to win. Nobody knows how to lose. You just hate to see one of them have to go down.
Yeah, I'm leaning Mobile Christian there. They've had a solid season, but so has Houston Academy. Flomaton, 4-seed over a 1. They beat Walter Welborn 34-0. And look, sometimes regions are just stronger than other regions. I mean, the SEC is just stronger than, the ACC. It's just how it is. Right. Flomaton, they get a big win, 34-0 over Walter Welborn. Trinity, they beat Providence Christian 31-14. So because the 4-seed won, this is a chance where a 4-seed does get to host That is a 4v2. Trinity was at home last week in Montgomery. Flomaton had to go to Anniston, so now they will host. Flomaton will host Trinity in that game. St. James, they get a big win over Opp, 41-7. Randolph County, they beat W.S. Neal 48-36. So Randolph County will go to Montgomery to take on St. James. And then Strawn, they beat Southside Selma 45-14. Thomasville, they beat Dadeville 28-0. Thomasville will go to Strawn. So your southern half, Mobile Christian hosts Houston Academy. Flomaton, they host Trinity. St. James, they host Randolph County. Strawn, they host Thomasville. In the northern half, Gordo, team once again you can always count on to be there at this point in the season. 56-6 winners over Phil Campbell. They will host Geraldine, who beat Susan Moore 56-14 in the second round. Gordo, Geraldine, both pretty good teams you can rely on.
Yeah, they got both of them got great offenses. You know, if you were betting over/under, I'd go the over.
Both scored 56 in their first round game. So, yeah, you expect some scoring there. Lauderdale County, they beat Fayette County 35-14. They will have to travel to Piedmont, who, as a 3 seed, J.B. Pennington's good, but a lot is expected of Piedmont. Once again, when you get to the playoffs, you just expect Piedmont to be there. Even though it's a 3 seed, they get a win 44-14. So they will host Lauderdale County in that game. And, of course, the Pruitt name – heavy there at Piedmont with both Jeremy and his dad there kind of helping to lead that program. So Piedmont will host Lauderdale County in the second round. Madison Academy, once again, a team you expect to get a big win. They did 57-20 over Hoax Bluff. And Mars Hill, this is an interesting second round matchup that you would not expect to see in the second round. Mars Hill beat Oakman 63-7. Madison Academy hosting Mars Hill, both Northern Alabama teams. Mars Hill will go from Florence over to Madison, and not only is this a good matchup here, because Marshall ended up losing that region to Lauderdale County, but a good private school matchup here too. As much as the argument is in these lower classifications, private versus public, a lot of public schools don't like these private schools, especially Mars Hill, the tear they've been on. Madison Academy back in the Carry-On Johnson days, dominating everybody. But Mars Hill not going to Madison Academy, somebody's going to get taken out.
I flip a coin, man. Yeah. If I could pick a game to go to, that would probably be it.
Let's see if the old actually, Mars Hill by 6. Is that what the old system spit out? So wouldn't shock me. I'd lean Madison Academy just because they've been really good this season. But then again, so has Mars Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of a coin flip there. But Mars Hill will go to Madison for that one. Then Sylvania, they beat Vinemont 41-0. Winfield, they beat Colbert County 43-21. Sylvania will host Winfield. So your northern half, Gordo hosts Geraldine, Lauderdale County at Piedmont, Madison Academy hosts Mars Hill, Sylvania hosts Winfield.
Yeah, don't count the Pirates of Winfield out either. You know, their only loss was to Gordo. It was by a touchdown. That was at the very first of the season. That was the very first region game that they played. I'm telling you, Winfield's gotten stronger. Watch out for that scoop.
The only upset there, Piedmont, but that's just a team you expect to get a win there in the first round. Other than that, a really, really strong roster in the northern half for Class 3A. All right, Class 4A, and then we'll take a break and come back for the upper classifications. But some strong teams there in Class 4A, including Jackson, starting on the top left of the bracket, 44-7 over Cleburne County. They will host again at Legion Field as Andalusia beat Sipsey Valley 43-6. Andalusia, your 2 seed after losing to Montgomery Catholic, so they will have to travel to Jackson. But Jackson Andalusia, once again, that's a second round matchup. You typically expect that in the semifinals.
I know it. I love Andalusia, but, man, Jackson's got a football team. They're rolling. You said it before. It doesn't matter what classification you'd put them up against anyway. That's the way I feel about Jackson.
Jackson, they are that good this season. Hanley, they beat St. Michael 68-38. First ever playoff appearance for Phillip Rivers and St. Michael in school history, but they do fall to Hanley, who, they're a team who's made a run to a state championship here, the last decade or so. So Hanley get a big win, 68-38 over St. Michael. And how about this? American Christian falling to Booker T. Washington, 22-12. Bit of an upset there in Tuscaloosa. So now Booker T. Washington gets a host against Hanley. So a big win there for BTW as Hanley has to now go on the road. Bibb County, they beat Montgomery Academy. No shock there, 56-6. 35-7, Jacksonville gets a win over Bayside Academy. Barrett Trotter, kind of like Phillip Rivers. You look at the big coaches down there in that region. Right. Got him to the playoffs, got him in a good position. You just ran up against Jacksonville, who's a good team. But, expect both big things out of both St. Michael and Bayside Academy moving forward.
Yeah, and I know how good Bibb County is. I really haven't studied that much on Jacksonville, but, obviously they're a good football team. That game is going to be interesting.
I thought Jacksonville would give Oxford a little more of a battle than they did in that final regular season game. I know that's 4A v 6A, but Oxford took it to them pretty good. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. I lean Bibb County there, but I'm not 100% sure with that one. Montgomery Catholic, they win 48-7 over West Blockton. Actually, I know somebody who plays for West Blockton, got the final touchdown in that game when it was already 48-0, so didn't really matter. And they're like, look, Montgomery Catholic is for real, and I fully believe it. I have had Montgomery Catholic in the state championship and winning the state championships since day one of this season. I have no reason to change now, even though we've talked about all the good teams they would potentially have to go through. And it starts this week with T.R. Miller, 20-16. They get a close win over Anniston, but T.R. Miller now has to go to Montgomery to take on Montgomery Catholic.
Yeah, and I got a soft place in my heart for T.R. Miller. It's the first state championship game I ever called in my life on WKNU down in Brewton, Alabama. So, I love you, T.R. Miller Tigers, but I'm going to tell you, Montgomery Catholic's coming at you, and they got a good football team.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one there. So you talk about good teams. Jackson, Andalusia, Jackson hosts that one. Handley goes to Booker T. Washington. Bibb County, they host Jacksonville. Montgomery Catholic, they host T.R. Miller. Good roster there of games in the South for 4A. In the North, Dora upset by Priceville, 18-14. Dora, they were in a three-way tie for first. They win the tie. They get to host that game but lose to Priceville. Aniana, they fall to Brooks. So Aniana with Fluff, with their running back. I always love seeing that nickname come across. They lose 56-42 to Brooks. So that's a 3v4. So Brooks hosts this game there against Priceville. Interesting upsets there. Dora and Aniana both going down.
You just swap those two. I'm more surprised at these two.
Yeah. Aniana, I thought would make a little bit of a run there, especially as a 2 seed. But, Brooks gets the big win there over Aniana. Westminster Christian, they went over Oak Grove 35-13. Deshler, they beat Fultondale 43-27. So Westminster Christian will host that one up in Huntsville. West Morgan, one of the strongest teams there in 4A. They win 56-0 over Etowah. A little surprising to see Etowah get shut out like that in the playoffs, but I guess Cadillac's not there anymore. Corner, they beat Randolph 42-21, so Corner will host that one as a 3 seed. Corner, who lost that tiebreaker to Dora. The two teams that lost tiebreaker, Haleyville and Corner, they both win. Dora, they lose to a 4 seed. Cherokee County, they beat Central Florence. I know Cherokee County, they have a lot of fans out there thinking, look, this is our year to potentially do something. I could see them in the championship. I think in a pick 'em, I actually picked them in the championship from the North. They win 56-28 over Central Florence. And then Haleyville, they win 33-14 over North Jackson. So Priceville goes to Brooks in the second round. Deshler goes to Westminster Christian. Those winners will play each other. West Morgan at Corner, and then Cherokee County hosts Haleyville. Those two winners will face each other. So that's Class 4A. That's Class 1A through 4A. A lot of big matchups. We've already named a lot of good teams to watch if you're looking for a small classification game to keep an eye on. A lot of good ones there to choose between. So before we get to 5A through 7A, before we get to our Milo's Player of the Week, first tell us about one of our great new sponsors.
All year I've been talking about Shepherd Equipment and Disposal, and if you've heard me talk, you probably have gotten like, well, maybe I don't need that service or whatever. But if you do, folks, you need to listen to me. Shepherd Equipment, the best in the business at land clearing, building roads. They also have dumpsters for rent, both commercial and residential. If you need a deck torn down off the back of your house, maybe an old deck, how about a shed out back? You just need somebody to just tear it down, haul it off. They do all that type of work. They do bush hogging. They do land clearing. They have every service outdoor like that you can need. But most importantly, they're some of the best people that I've ever met. You need to call them at 205-704-0408, 704-0408. You can always find them online at shepherdequipment.com. It's Shepherd Equipment and Disposal. You cannot go wrong by contacting these people for all your land needs.
Thanks so much to Shepherd Equipment all season long for helping us out here at Next Round Preps. Also, thanks to Milo's. We'll get to our Milo's Player of the Week. He has not been, the game has not been mentioned yet. We'll get to the upper classification games, 5A, 6A, and 7A. Talk about some big matchups coming up in round 2 when we get back right here on Next Round Preps.
Have you or a loved one been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which is brain changes that are starting to interfere with your life? Did you know researchers have proven that these brain changes can be slowed down or reversed in many people that routinely exercise their brain? At the Care and Thrive Foundation, we specialize in helping you understand the specific areas of the brain that have changed and develop a brain health plan, including cognitive exercises, adaptive approaches, and helpful technology to proactively stay ahead of your brain wellness. Visit www.careandthrive.org for more information.
We've partnered with Who Is Coffee to create the Next Round Blend, available in light, medium, and dark roast. 100% Arabica beans. Specialty coffee roasted on demand, available in whole bean or ground for drip pods. Espresso and coarse ground for French press. Go to nextround.store to get a link to pre-order today. Everyone that pre-orders will be entered to win a prize pack with coffees, shirts, hats, and tumblers. Nextround.store for the Next Round Blend.
Welcome back in here to Next Round Preps. John Lunsford, Jerry Young here with you. Let's move on to Class 5A as we get to the upper classifications here. And in Class 5A, one of the strongest teams all season that we still don't have a ruling about is Gulf Shores. They win 48-7 over Beauregard. I don't know that we will get anything before the end of the playoffs.
I mean, what would you do, John, right now? I mean, really, I think it would be such chaos. I mean, if they had to forfeit those games, would that the next team up just automatically get a win?
Do you put Beauregard in? Do you just give Charles Henderson, who they're playing this week, a free win? Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and what about the teams that lost? They would say, hey, I would deserve to be. So I don't know. It's a big mess. I know that.
I don't expect a ruling until the end, and then if they have to go back and retroactively do something, then I don't know. But
if they have to, they may not have to.
Yeah, if they have to. But 48-7, they get a win. We fully expect them to, win that game and to keep moving on. However, Charles Henderson, 64-20, winners over Marbury. They move on, so Henderson will go down to Gulf Shores and take on Gulf Shores down there. Then the upset of the day, everybody had their eye on the matchup of the two winningest coaches, not based on percentage, but total wins. The two winningest coaches of all time, Danny Horn at Central Clay County, Terry Curtis at UMS Wright. UMS Wright, a 4 seed, just had to barely sneak in based on tiebreakers to even make the playoffs. Of course, they're typically a 4A team. Competitive balance moved them up to 5A. Central Clay County, meanwhile, they were smaller. They merged. Clay County and Lineville merged together. So now they're in an upper classification. However, Central Clay County, a 1 seed who had dominated all season. UMS Wright, who had struggled all season. UMS Wright gets the win 7-0.
You know, Central Clay County hadn't gotten over this one yet. I mean, I talked to my buddy over there this morning, as a matter of fact, and it still hurts. They just – I compare it to last year, was it, when Clay Chalkville lost
to Parker. Yep.
It's just like you can't get over that. It's not supposed to happen, but it did. Congratulations to UMS Wright. They got to play Headland, though.
They do. Headland gets a big win, 30-20, and Headland hosts UMS Wright. A lot of UMS Wright people were like, why don't we get to host this? I mean, we're a 4 seed that just beat one of the best teams in the state. Why? Well, the way it works, equal travel, and it used to be different. This actually changed a few years ago, so there's still some confusion on this. It used to be it was based on travel, and then if it was equal travel, the team on top of the bracket. And if you go through and look at all my brackets, technically the seeds change where everybody is. So the Region 1 winner will be at a different spot on the bracket every year because they move it around. But now they changed it a few years ago to where the higher seed, and I think this is probably how it should be, the higher seed host if it's equal travel. So now Headland is a 3 seed, UMS Wright's a 4 seed. Headland gets to host this game. Now, if they had equal travel, let's say next week, a 1 and a 1 face each other that have not traveled, or they've both traveled once and they're equal seed, then it goes to the top of the bracket. So a team like Gulf Shores and Ramsey and 5A are at the top of the bracket. So if it ever came down to that, they would ultimately have home field all the way down. But because like at Thompson, for instance, this year, everybody's asking, well, could Thompson be at home the whole time? The only way Thompson would have traveled is if James Clemens had won out, because James Clemens would then be at home because they're on top of the bracket this year. It just happens to be where Region 4 was over Region 3. Anyway, UMS Wright, they're traveling to Headland. That's the end of the story. That's how it is. It was confirmed by the HSAA. Everybody that was yelling at me on Twitter, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you what the rules are. I didn't make the rules. I just enforced them. However, UMS Wright, the biggest thing about this, and it's kind of with the Clay Chalkville Parker upset last year, it's not that it was like, oh, man, it was a great 24-21 upset that kicked a field goal to win at the end. It was 7-0.
Yeah.
Now, this is usual for UMS Wright. So they have a good defense to keep it low scoring. But with the Clay game last year, we've seen Clay Chalkville. They can put up 100 points a night, any given night.
Right.
And it was 7-6. It's like, how good do those defenses have to be to stop these teams? For Parker to hold Clay to 6 points, for UMS Wright to hold Central Clay County, and it must be something about the word Clay in there getting upset, but Central Clay County to 0 points, and it's 7-0.
And it shows you that defense does win championships, obviously, but it also shows you that something was off in that game. I mean, you just don't have a team like that, like Central Clay, that doesn't score a point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the same thing if Thompson didn't score a point. You got the best quarterback in the state probably. You got great receiver. How can that not happen? In my opinion, it can't not happen. It can't happen. So, but it did right here. I mean, it's in black and white, and that whole community is they got to shake it off and get ready for next year.
So UMS Wright will travel to Headland this week in the second round.
And that's not taking anything away from UMS Wright, by the way.
Oh, no.
That defense played. You just
see the story of UMS Wright, that they barely snuck in there, but at the end of the day, it's UMS Wright.
That's right.
It's like there's a lot of teams like Piedmont, for instance. They're a 3 seed. They did not play great this season. You just expect them to win in the first round of the playoffs. You expect that out of both UMS Wright and Central Clay County. And I mentioned, Central Clay County is not too far removed from even winning a state championship. But then again, UMS Wright isn't either. That's just unfortunate first-round draw for Central, I guess, that you have to play a team like UMS Wright. UMS Wright gets the win 7-0. All right, in the other quadrant there in the south, Demopolis, 31-28 winners over Carroll, a close game there. Demopolis, they will have to travel to BC Rain, who also gets a big win as a 3 seed over Valley. So not only did UMS Wright beat the 1 seed out of Region 4, BC Rain beat the 2 seed out of Region 4. And Valley, they win 34-22. So BC Rain now hosts Demopolis down in Mobile.
Remember, Demopolis only lost 2 games. One of them was to Catholic Montgomery. That's a great ball team. And they got blown out in that ball game, which is concerning, and blown out again by Jackson. So.
2 4A teams, too.
That's right.
Stepping now, very good 4A teams. But
that's right.
Yeah, stepping down in classification. I lean BC Rain in this one just because they've stepped it up, been a little better this season, finished ahead of UMS Wright in that region, but BC Rain will host that one against Demopolis. Then Eufaula, they win 65-19 over Shelby County. Faith Academy, they beat Elmore County 31-7, so all Region 1 teams move on, and it wouldn't shock me if all Region 1 teams move on to the next round. Gulf Shores will host Charles Henderson at a Region, or Gulf Shores, the Region 1 team there. UMS Wright travels to Headland. UMS Wright, Region 1 team there. Region 1 3 seed BC Rain hosts Demopolis, and then Faith Academy will head to Eufaula. All right, in the northern half, Ramsey. Ramsey is so good this season. They get a big win, 50-0 over West Point. They will host Leeds, who gets a big win over Arab, 33-7. Boy, this is a game I can't wait to see the outcome too. I lean Ramsey to get an actually decent size win right here, just because they are that good. I think. Talk about good defenses; they have a really good defense. But this one should be a good one there in Birmingham.
Here's the factor: Jerry Hood. I'm going to tell you, he's been there long enough now at Leeds. He's built this team into what he wants. I don't know. I know that everything's going to go Ramsey. Just don't go to sleep on the Jerry Hood team. That's all I'm telling you.
Ramsey's been my pick to win the state championship from the beginning. Well before the playoffs. I'm going to obviously stick with it here. But, yeah, Leeds, not necessarily the best second-round draw if you are the Rams. Russellville, another tough out there in the playoffs every year, regardless of how good they are. They get a win, 38-21 over Fairfield. Moody beat Scottsboro. They go on the road. They beat Scottsboro 28-10. Now, I picked Moody to win this one. I think my assistant spit it out at like 6.5 point favorite there for Moody, and they definitely lived up to it. They get the win, so they will host Russellville. This is one of those 3 seeds that will host Russellville. I know everybody from up north is like, why do we have to go down to Moody? We're the 1 seed. Well, that's just how it goes. It's all based on travel, and Moody, they got a big win, so they will host Russellville there at Moody. Gunnersville, they are a 1 seed. They won 31-7 over Springville. They will travel to John Carroll, who also was in that 3 seed spot. John Carroll got a big win, 22-14 over Fairview. So Gunnersville will come into Birmingham and play John Carroll there. I always like to say Homewood. I think it's technically Birmingham, but I could always consider John Carroll as a part of Homewood. Since Homewood didn't win, I'll claim John Carroll now.
Once you cross the interstate, you go from Homewood to Birmingham.
I'll claim John Carroll as a Homewood person since that's all I got left.
That's right.
Southside Gadsden, they fall to Boaz. Close one one here, 10-7. Boaz, the 4 seed, they will host Pleasant Grove, who beat Lawrence County 49-17. So the Spartans will have to go to Boaz. So your northern half, Ramsey hosts Leeds, Russellville at Moody, Gunnersville at John Carroll, and Pleasant Grove at Boaz. You have a 1-3-3-4 at home in the northern half. So chaos is already brewing. Let's see if Ramsey goes down to add some, even more chaos to this. But boy, Ramsey versus Russellville, Leeds versus Moody, a rematch. I mean, any matchup that happens in that top quadrant is going to be incredible.
All right, so you know how we have the kickoff classic in Montgomery?
Yeah.
I'd love to see Jackson and Gulf Shores play each other next year. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
I just think they're the class of those classifications.
Go play at South
wanna
Alabama
throw
or
that
something.
in there.
Yeah, go play at like South Alabama or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a.
Sarah Land, Thompson.
Hey, I got a whole.
Jackson
Let's do a whole next round preps kickoff like all week long. We'll
wouldn't
play.
that be great?
We'll play some of the best small classification teams against each other. Some of the best big class. I got all kind of ideas for that.
Okay.
But we don't need to get into that
You
now.
got the money. We can get it done.
We'll move on. Thanks to Shepherd Equipment for that.
That's right.
Moving on to Class 6A, Saraland, who, in my opinion, is the number one team in the state, regardless of classification. They win 54-14 over McAdory from Region 4. They will move on and travel to, they got to come all the way up. Hey, you're a 1 seed in the Mobile region. Congrats. You get to come up to Birmingham and go to Lions Pride Stadium and take on Briarwood, who beat Carver Montgomery 25-0. So Briarwood gets to host Saraland in that one. I don't know that it will matter.
No,
However,
I love my Lions, but
yeah. At least you get a home game. At least you get
That's
another
right.
home game out of it. Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, they beat St. Paul's 20-6. St. Paul's always really good defense. When St. Paul's and UMS Wright play, they play every year. That game every year is like 10-7. 14-7, 7-3, like some incredibly low-scoring game. So no shock they held Hillcrest to only 20 points there, a team that has been used to scoring 50-plus points a game. Hillcrest, they win 20-6. They will host Helena, who started off 8-0, lost the last region game of the season to lose a region title, lost to Vestavia 44-0. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the state, Helena was. They lose to Vestavia 44-0. I know it's a 7A team and a good 7A team, but they get a rebound win over Wetumpka 58-28. So Hillcrest now will host Helena in the second round. Not a super far drive, but Helena will drive over to Tuscaloosa for that one. Ben Russell, the team that beat Helena and won the region championship, 39-13 winners over Sidney Lanier. Sidney Lanier's last football game ever. As the Poets, they lose to Ben Russell at Alexander City. Ben Russell will now host Hueytown, who gets a Hueytown team that beat Theodore 14-0, shut them out, revenge game from last year. Theodore knocked Hueytown out of the playoffs, so Ben Russell will now host Hueytown there in Alexander City. Should be a good one there. And then my Homewood Patriots, they fall 10-9 to Pike Road in the Battle of the Patriots. Homewood's quarterback and top receiver got injured in the first half. They were up 9-7 at halftime, Pike Road. It was a defensive showcase in the second half. Pike Road got into the range to kick field goal, and Homewood could not come back and win that one. So 10-0, Pike Road wins. And Spanish Fort, they beat Bessemer City, no shock here, 28-0. So interesting southern half, Saraland at Briarwood, Helena at Hillcrest, Hueytown at Ben Russell, and Spanish Fort at Pike Road. Spanish Fort, Pike Road, Hillcrest, Helena. I mean, those matchups are solid to me. I still like Saraland to obviously move on all the way to the championship, but I mean, Hillcrest can make a run, Helena can make a run.
I got to
Pike
slow
Road.
my heart rate down. These are some games just get you pumping.
Pike Road can make a run. Spanish Fort can make a run. Some really good games there in the south. All right, in the north, Parker, 62-14. Big winners over Mae Jemison there out of Huntsville. They will host Oxford here in Birmingham. Oxford wins 45-27 over a good Athens team. Parker, I expect Parker to move on to the semifinals if I had to pick it. But, I mean, Oxford's a tough out. On the other side, you got Gaston City and Hartselle are tough outs. I mean, this is a good final 16 there for 6A.
You're in the meat of it right here. And Parker and Oxford, I mean, there's no way you can sit back and say, well, here's the advantage here, here's the advantage there. The only advantage at all is that Oxford's got to travel about an hour to get to Parker. Other than that, an hour's drive in the cheese wagon maybe is it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
pretty
the only,
much.
the only advantage that Parker would have.
And that's what being a 1 seed will get you. You get to have that home game there for the Thundering Herd. All right, Gaston City, they beat Gardendale 44-14. huge shout out to Gardendale, 3-7, but winning the 3 games that when it mattered the most to get into the playoffs. So big end of the season there for Gardendale. They lose to Gadsden City though, 44-14. Hartselle, they beat Centerpoint. Centerpoint with George Bates, always so close, just can't quite get over the hump. Hartselle, they win 28-18. If Centerpoint had won that, wouldn't have shocked anybody, I don't think. Hartselle, they have to go to Gadsden City. Gadsden City, 7A team, dropped down, not this past reclassification, but the one before that. And, you know, they have a chance to make a little noise there in Class 6A now, dropping down a classification. Wouldn't surprise me if they win this one, but then you got to play the winner of Parker and Oxford after that. Muscle Shoals, they win 42-7 over Pinson Valley. They will play Fort Payne, who won 45-28 over Mortimer Jordan. Jordan had a great season, ended maybe a little earlier than they thought. Muscle Shoals will host Fort Payne in that one. And then my pick out of the North, most people's pick out of the North, most people's pick to win the state championship, and a lot of people's overall number 1 in the state because of their win over Thompson. Clay Chalkville wins 49-7 over Coleman. Mountain Brook, they beat Buckhorn 35-14. Clay Mountain Brook, a semifinal matchup you typically would expect. However, it is in the second round because Mountain Brook lost to Parker. So Clay will host that one at Cougar Stadium against Mountain Brook. So your northern teams, Parker,
Yes.
Oxford, Gadsden City, Hartselle, Muscle Shoals, Fort Payne, Clay Chalkville, Mountain Brook, all teams you expect to be there. And once again, some incredible games.
Move on. I'm telling you, it's just incredible.
The thing is, we get to this point in the season. I remember last year it was Thompson, Vestavia, I believe in the second round, which is what it is this year, and Hoover and Hewitt, which is what it is this year. Different seeds, but that's what it was last year. And I remember watching Hoover and Hewitt like in the press box, everybody on their toes, because if Thompson had played Hewitt, it would have been at home. Hoover, it would have been on the road because Hoover won the regular season matchup. I'm sitting there looking through my scores. I'm on my iPad after the game like, oh my gosh, did you see so-and-so be? Oh,
right.
Wait, hold on. Did you? I mean, it's just like
Right.
all night Friday night will be that because of all these good matchups. So moving on to Class 7A, and then we'll get to the game we are at here in a second. Central Phoenix City, they beat Davidson 63-21. No real shock there. Auburn, however, beats Baker on the road. They had to go to Mobile and take on Baker. 27-17, Auburn wins that one. Surprise, surprise. Central Phoenix City and Auburn are playing each other in the playoffs. However, it's in the second round, not the semifinals. The winner of that game will face the winner of Mary Montgomery, who beat Dothan. Close game, down to the wire. Dothan was ahead.
They were ahead the whole game.
Large portion of that game. 21-13, Mary Montgomery gets that win. Enterprise, they beat Daphne. No shock there, 63-28. Enterprise goes to Mobile to take on Mary Montgomery. Still leaning Central Phoenix City, but who does Central Phoenix City play?
Yeah, well,
Because Mary Montgomery, they're undefeated. They have done nothing to make me think they would
right.
lose to Enterprise. We just know that Enterprise is a good, strong team who is, a typical playoff team.
so here's the deal. Mary Montgomery's never been this far.
Nope.
Okay? The shock value is about to get to them. I fully expect them to probably beat Enterprise, but Enterprise, dang good football team. Okay? If Mary Montgomery wins, then you got to go to, is it Metro Stadium? I can't remember the name of the stadium in Phoenix City, but I assume that they will
Garrett
travel.
Harrison Stadium.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. It's just like they got to have some type of, well, I've never been here before feeling, okay?
Yeah.
So this is going to be real good. This South bracket on 7A, you still expect Central Phoenix City to come out of it, of course.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun getting there.
Central, there's 4 teams at the top and then everybody else, and it's Central, Thompson, Saraland, Clay. If you made an argument for any of them to be at the top, I would understand. Now Thompson's the one that has a loss, but it's one of those teams in there. Yeah, it's tough to beat Central. Central, with this though, will be at home next week regardless. If they play Mary Montgomery, they'll be at home because they're on top of the bracket with equal travel. And if they play Enterprise, they'll be at home because they finished higher than Enterprise in that region. Auburn can only be at home if they play Mary Montgomery. If they play Enterprise, then they'll have to go to Enterprise, finishing behind them in region play. So there's your southern matchups in Class 7A. Then, of course, in the north, big shock, I know, 7A Region 3 swept everybody. I thought Austin may could potentially pull it off. They were the closest to pulling it off. James Clemens had Hoover early on, then Hoover just exploded. Hoover has been the best second-half team in the state this year. And I know you say Hoover hadn't been the best in anything this year in the state because of their record, but they have exploded after awful first halves, even against the worst teams. I mean, they have just exploded, and they did it against James Clemens. They went 42-16.
But you know, the most shocking thing that jumps off the page to me is Hoover has to win the second round playoff game to be a 500 team this year.
Yeah.
They still have a losing record going into the second round of the playoffs.
That's right. They were 5-6, finished 4-6 overall. Now they're 4-3 in region. They won the region games that mattered to ultimately sneak in. Really, one game that mattered, and it was the Spain Park game in their first region game of the season, their first win of the season. But yeah, it is crazy to see James Clemens come in. All these teams come in. I mean, we're used to sitting and looking at Thompson. Thompson's 9-1 because they had to cancel that game, so that was their 10th game. So they're 9-1 in the season. Yeah, pretty much expected. But yeah, not for Hoover. And the thing is, this is the crazy thing. I feel like a team like Hewitt hates because they constantly had to play a team like Hoover in the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
Well, guess what? You get to do it again, but you're ahead. Hoover's having to play up to Hewitt because of the way the region finished out. It's flipped. And even though it's flipped and you did that much better than Hoover and finished 2 spots ahead of Hoover, you still got to play Hoover in the second round instead of it being a 2v4 like it is, or instead of it being a 1v3 like it is with Thompson and Vestavia. It's a 2v4 instead. But Hewitt's the 2, and you still got to play Hoover, and it's still Hoover in the playoffs. And once again, despite the record, you expect Hoover to win when it comes to the playoffs.
And look at your note there about the history. That's the other most shocking thing in the world is Hoover is 29-1 in second round playoff games, and look at Hewitt-Trussville.
Yeah, Hewitt has not won a second round game since 2008, and the biggest reason why is because 7A, about a decade ago when this started, obviously in that region there with Hoover, before Thompson came on, Hoover was the dominant team. Then Thompson comes on, obviously have been the dominant team since.
Right.
But Hewitt, even when they left, remember they left Region 3 for 2 years.
Right.
But guess what? Even if you win that first game, which they did win those first games with their region champ, you got to play Hoover. You got to play Thompson. You got to play a Region 3 team. You just can't escape it in Class 7A. They're trying to fix it with the whole, rotating regions thing that, Hewitt would maybe play. But here's the thing. Hoover, they're either playing James Clemens, they're either playing Mary Montgomery, which I think they beat both of those, or Central Phoenix City. If they lose to Central Phoenix City as a 4 seed playing at 1, they lose to Central Phoenix City, guess what? You're playing Central Phoenix City, who's even better than Hoover.
That's right.
It's not going to fix anything for a team like Hewitt-Trussville rotating these regions around.
That's right.
The only thing that fixes it is to seed everybody 1 through 16.
That's right.
Because at that point, Hewitt-Trussville is probably like a 5 seed. Maybe even higher than that, to where then you avoid teams potentially based on where they are. Regardless, you're going to have to play a tough team. It's either Hoover or Central Phoenix City in that regard. So I don't know what to tell you, Hewitt. I don't really know what to say.
Listen, it's going to benefit Regions 1 and 4 when they rotate next year.
Well, once 2 and 3 are on the same side,
right?
Congrats, 1 and 4. You get to make it to the Super 7 to then get destroyed by
That's
Central or
it
Thompson
is.
or whoever.
Right. So the teams that never get to go to the Super 7, oh, poor pitiful me, they're going to get there, and then they're going to get wiped by either Regions 3 or 2 or 3. So, yeah, we all know what it's about. But
it's like those years, 2008, 2009, when Alabama and Florida were in the SEC championship with Tebow there.
Right.
And, they won in 08, and then Alabama came back, won in 09. That was the national championship game. It didn't matter who they went and played the next week. In the championship, we knew they were going to destroy them. That's right. And we knew that the winner of that was going to be the champion, and that's kind of what it will be when it's Central Thompson, but in the semifinals instead.
Right.
That, Central Auburn are playing this week because Auburn got upset and didn't play as good this year. If it's Central Thompson, they both could be unbeaten, and you're still not playing in the state championship. So I don't know that rotating the regions necessarily helps.
And I feel like I'm picking on teams when I say that, but you just look at round 1, Thompson and Florence. Let's just say Florence doesn't have to go through all that, and they get to play Mobile teams, and they end up getting to the Super 7. Then you've got Thompson or Central playing a Florence team. That's going to be real entertaining, folks, at the Super 7. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I get what they're doing. I get that we need everybody to get a chance to participate.
Final thing I'll say on this, I would love to take Class 7A as it is now.
Right.
Throw it in the trash.
Okay.
And start over. Still have I don't call it a super classification necessarily because it's only based on school size, but still have an upper classification, but completely rework how it's done. And there's a million things that go into that. I get that it's based on regions, it's based on school size for a reason. But there's a lot that can be fixed in that. None of it will ever get fixed. It just is how it is. And guess what? You have Hoover taking on Hewitt-Trussville, and you have Thompson taking on Vestavia, and it's going to be that way every single year.
And you got Central taking on Auburn.
Yep. And you got Enterprise still sitting there.
Either Dothan or,
and Dothan,
in this case,
Dothan really probably got upset, even though it was a one seed.
Right.
Probably got upset.
Right.
So anyway, Hoover taking on Hewitt-Trussville this week. That game will be at Hewitt-Trussville.
Hey, but I tell you one thing. Foley can come alive. Prattville can come alive.
Yep.
Which would change Region 2. It would also change Region 1. James Clemens, Huntsville, Sparkman, Florence, they could all get better. Just saying.
And like I pointed out in the reclassification, there's a chance that a team like Clay Chalkville is sitting on the outside coming in. Guess what? Region 3. All you've done is add another strong team to Region 3. It doesn't look like the teams that would come up, it seems like, are in the Birmingham area. Helena, I mean, they're 8-2. They lost pretty bad to Vestavia, but overall, pretty decent football club in the Region 3. It's all Region 3, it seems like, the teams that are on the outside looking in right now.
Right.
And the one I think they can come up in the South is Robertsdale, who's not winning a game in 6A, much less in Class 7A. So none of it's going to get fixed. Congratulations. It's going to be this way moving forward. Hoover, they're taking on Hewitt-Trussville at Hewitt-Trussville.
Let's move on to the last
Thompson,
game.
they beat Florence 42-0. Vestavia, they beat Austin. Big second half there. They win by 21, 38-17. So now Vestavia has to go to Thompson, and Thompson will be at home regardless if they win that game. That game will be in Alabaster on Friday. We'll, of course, be on the call for that one. But here's the thing. Outside of Clay Chalkville, who ended up beating Thompson based on a missed field goal from Thompson, Vestavia is the toughest team by far that Thompson has played this season.
Oh, absolutely.
I know they're coming in as a 3 seed, but this is the game that would, if I'm a Thompson fan, and we work for Thompson, obviously, but this is the game that scares me more than even Hewitt or Hoover in the second round.
That's right. If you're a Thompson fan, you need to show up. Just that simple. I mean, that place needs to, the aura of Warrior Stadium needs to be the aura of Warrior Stadium. It's just that simple. Let me tell you something. Vestavia is a very good football team. John Paul Head, great quarterback. They're well coached. They're motivated. They won last week. I forgot the score. What was it, John?
38-17.
Yeah, okay. They came back in the second half, had a great second half, played good. They've had some blowout wins here in the second half of the season. Their motivation and that momentum as well has got them to this game. Do not be fooled that this is a usual Thompson win. I got a call this morning. You know, they're just already marking it down. That's not right at all. Thompson's got to play their best game of the season because they're going to get Vestavia's best game of the season. It's going to be a great ball game. You can see it on the WarriorNationNetwork.org.
Of course, we'll be on the call for that one. My system spit out Thompson by 20.
No way.
It was an 18-point game last time, but it wasn't even remotely close to that. I know it's just using what the score ultimately is.
Right.
But we watched that game. And our Milo's player of the week for last week, Trent Seaborn.
Wow,
freshman
well
quarterback from Thompson. We sat there and watched the performance. 25 of 29 passing for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown. Not looked at as the running quarterback. They have their backup as basically a running quarterback. But, Trent showing his legs as well. Of course, winning that game 42-0. 17 consecutive playoff victories for Thompson, all behind freshman quarterback Trent Seaborn. However, when they played Vestavia, Trent Seaborn threw for 3 interceptions, because Jordan Ross, who's arguably the number 1 player in the state, one of the top edge rushers in the country, is rushing in his face every single time.
Right.
That's why Vestavia can change things. And not only do you have a good edge rusher, he's going against a freshman. I mean, Trent's incredible, but at the end of the day, he's still a freshman, and you got a guy like that in his face the entire time. But it's playoff Thompson. Who knows? If Thompson won this game by 30, it wouldn't shock me. If Vestavia won this game, it wouldn't shock me. But this is going to be a good matchup regardless. And, of course, you can catch it all, like Jerry said, on the Warrior Nation Network.
Yeah, WarriorNationNetwork.org. And by the way, if you get in your car from some of these games going home and you want to hear the scores of all the games, the best place to do it, you can just, right in your car, go to the Mixler app or go to WarriorNationNetwork.com, click the listen button. We'll be on the air after the game giving scores, and John will also have bracket matchups. So the best place to get your scores and who's playing who next week as well. So when you get in your car from some of these games, go to WarriorNationNetwork.org.
I got it all for you. We got it all for you on the Warrior Nation Network. We'll be back next week with round 3 of the playoffs right here on Next Round Preps.